Hello and welcome to another episode of the CollabTalk podcast, where we discuss the convergence of technology, business productivity, and collaboration culture. And this, again, falls more on the culture side of things. My guest today is David Pileggi Jr., a sometimes actor, a very much a YouTuber, and a senior SharePoint engineer, which is irrelevant to our topic today. He's at Staples. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much for having me, Christian. I really do appreciate it.
So we're just talking about like doing the hard math of when we met, and it was while I was still at Microsoft, so way back in 2006.
Yes.
So as far as community people, like there's a handful of people that I met back in that era, and partially because the team I was on at Microsoft, which was part of the team that created what is now known as Office 365. I joined to help with the launch of that. So we were MMS, and then we became BPOS, and then Office 365. Now it's all under Microsoft 365, and then eventually everything will just be rebranded as Copilot. I'm pretty sure, but I was an employee, so working at that first SharePoint conference there. Was that one in Seattle or Bellevue? I can't remember.
It was in Bellevue.
Okay.
It was a little bit smaller. It was a lot
Yeah.
more intimate. It was when they literally had a copy of MOS 2007 on every seat as you walked into. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. I actually, let me see if I can grab it really quick.
Wait, you have it?
This should look familiar.
Oh yes. No, I have the same one. Yeah. Okay. For folks that are just audio, it's the they were some beautiful briefcases and bags and stuff that you used to give out, and they've gone cheaper. There's been some nice ones, but I still have that one as well.
That one compared to any other one I've gotten since, none of them even come close.
Oh no. That there's one that so it's funny going to conferences. My wife has a certain list of requirements. Like one, I'm not allowed to bring back T-shirts.
Wow.
And
Okay.
two, I'm not allowed to bring back backpacks because they've
Understood.
just not been higher quality. And this isn't just Microsoft, it's other events. They've
No,
been on the
it's all
cheaper
across the
side.
boards. Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
And so now the new rule is no water bottles. I just brought another one home. So now
I
that
won't tell if you don't.
yeah, no, it's a brand new rule. Now it's
Oh,
official.
okay.
Yeah. But the topic today, and I was funny as I reached out to David. I said we were talking about doing something anyway on a topic, but I'm like, there's a comedian here that's been in a couple. I would even call them B movies, like regional movies and stuff. But he's a really funny guy. But not being able to lock him down, I'm like, I really want to cover this topic. I'm like, David be perfect for this. But it's how humor builds trust, engagement, and a healthy company culture. And
Yep.
because this is something that my personal philosophy has always been, and you know me well enough that I am an incredibly serious person all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you sit down on a penny, it turns into copper wire. I get it.
Yes, that's right. So, well, first, a little more of your background because you've done some other things. So, if you want to give it like a little bit of the tech side, but then the other stuff that you've been doing.
Well, we can start with tech. I went to UCF for my computer science degree. And that's after taking a hiatus. I actually was going to school when I first jumped out of, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I graduated in 89 and I went straight into college trying to impress my dad, who is unimpressible. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take physics and architecture. I bet he'll be proud. I liked it, but not to the magnitude that I was going to study that hard.
Yeah.
Went on to the college program to Disney for a co-op and just never came back.
Hmm.
And so I ended up working at Disney, then Universal, on a hiatus for about 5 years. Then I ended up going to UCF, got my computer science degree, and that's how I started. And one of my first jobs was a developer, oddly enough. And for all of you guys out there, get this. You're gonna laugh because you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. The last time I did professional development was on Visual Studios 6.0 Service Pack 4.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, my first thought when somebody goes and brings up like outdated technology, I was like, do I have that book? Do I have those boxes? Do I still have those discs? That because I'm one of those people, as my wife says, a little bit of the hoarder, but there's some things that I just can't get rid of. Like I have
Yep,
just about every cell phone I've ever owned still,
yep.
the PDA devices, that I've got multiple things. I've got a Zune collection. I've got,
Wow.
just a bunch of stuff that I could open like a little mini museum that no one would ever visit.
I still have my BlackBerry, by the way.
Yeah, no, I've got wait, no, I got rid of my BlackBerry, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I kind of miss those years
Well, what was
personally.
your so what was your acting experience? So you did the stuff at Disney. Like what other kind of stuff have you done?
So in Disney, I was in the foods side of things. So I got to be able to speak Spanish relatively well when it came to food and money. Outside of that, I was pretty much useless. But when I was actually working at Epcot Center, four people came the same day with the same article saying Universal Studios is hiring Ghostbusters. Every single one of them told me to go to the audition. I went to the audition. About 6 months later, I got a call back. And so I was Dr. Egon Spengler of the Ghostbusters show at Universal Studios Florida for well over 2 years.
Yeah, you've got that Spangler look, you know.
Yeah, it hasn't changed, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about you too, just kind of a trivia thing, like the other thing is like you like cutting off all your hair and donating stuff. Like that was a thing that
It
I'd see you
was.
like super short and then super hippie long, and the next time and
I had the opportunity to donate to Locks for Love 3 different times on 3 different occasions, and then I got old and, once the gray starts showing, it's not as
the
useful.
value of the hair goes
The value,
down,
yeah,
street value.
yeah, the street value. Exactly, how'd you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
You want some hair? But
yeah,
it's like but, I mean, honestly, it was something that when I worked at Disney and Universal, I met these children that had the strength of an adult that's gone through so much.
yeah,
Make-A-Wish Foundation, Give Kids the World Foundation, um, from United Kingdom, the Flintstones. I met kids from all different one, and one of the things that absolutely impressed me at that time was the strength despite what they were facing. It
yeah.
was absolutely amazing, and, one of the things I wanted to do was give back to that community in the way that I could, and once I left Disney and Universal, I had the opportunity to grow my hair out, and I did it 3 different times, and I was able to bless some some children with hair to make wigs, which is something that when they lose their hair, they become very self conscious, and
Yeah.
it was very exciting to hear about them.
It's you think about it, if you've grown up with pain and going through that in and out of hospitals at a young age, and you think, well, how can you be? I mean, that's what they know. That's the
Yeah.
norm, and so the fact that they can be so resilient and find joy and things that make them happy, uh, uh, it's amazing to see that. I mean, it's just it's a fact. Like we grow up, if you grow up like healthy and don't have all those problems, and then you start experiencing pain, we whine a bit more about it because it's not what we've
Yeah.
experienced our entire lives.
True. Honestly, you hit the nail on the head. It's if you're around it since the beginning, you don't know anything different. That's what jo- joke. I'm not equating this to SharePoint users, or maybe I am.
Yeah.
People have been using SharePoint for ages. They have a certain way or style of doing it, and don't realize that when they have new people coming in, they expect, well, I've been doing this. It's easy. I've forgetting the fact that they've been using SharePoint since Microsoft SharePoint Portal Server 2003.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I always say that people interpret things through the lens of their understanding.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I mean, we all have the bias that we bring. We look at things a
Yeah.
certain way. If you've had nothing but negative experience with the technology, with I mean, you look at this at like dogs. I'm a sucker for dogs. My dog just came in looking at me like, "Are we not going out, or what's going on here?" And I didn't acknowledge him, and he walked back out. But it's with dogs like strays that don't trust humans because their experience has been, and it takes a while to grow out of that. Kind of like a company culture. If you've got one that is
Yep.
so damaged um, by
Yep.
whatever it is, bad leadership. Even if the bad leaders have been cut away, have left an organization, it can cause damage that can be lasting. It has to be
Yep.
undone, and it takes time. And kind of on topic, there's so I know that you appreciate humor. You like me. I mean, I incorporate it into everything that I do. There's a like I just I think it could be unsettling. When I started to work for when I left Microsoft, I went to work for a little company down in Seattle, and the uh the CEO that was out of Australia, still good friends. I'm actually an
Mhm.
advisor for his current startup, and so we're still very close friends. But I just remember, he asked me, like, just kind of like, I could just sense that he was good humored, and I made it. I don't remember what he asked, but I made some statement where I said, "Well, where I ripped into Australia." It was something about Australia is peopled with thieves and vagabonds and pirates, and I don't trust any of them. And then looked at him with a straight face, and he just busted out laughing at that. Um, and so I've always tried to. I know my wife hates it sometimes. Like, I'm asking you a serious question. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, but the way that you said it is just really funny. So I'm
Yep.
sorry. But I've always tried to make, humor part of the way that I've managed, that I have, interacted with people.
It's extremely important, to be honest with you, and as you stated, it's always good to infuse humor. And one of the biggest reasons why my parents used to tell me growing up is better to win people over with sugar, not with vinegar. And it's humor is definitely that. Humor is more of a universal language, and it's usually more inviting. And because of that, I've noticed over time that people will tend to gravitate to someone who's humorous versus someone who is um, sad all the time, depressed all the time, gloomy. Insert X here, where it's a negative emotion. People tend to gravitate to people who are funny or humorous, and of course, just like everything else, there's overkill.
Of
You know,
course. Well, there's the people that, and I'm not talking about humors that like there's the people that are just sit there and and have like memorized jokes, kind of
oh
stuff like that.
yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, that could be okay, but that can get on people's nerves.
Mm.
But maybe here's a good question. I mean, so how your experience, how can leaders ensure that humor aligns with the company's values and culture?
So that's a really great question. So when leadership, I mean, leadership has a lot going on their plate. Leadership has to steer the ship, so to speak. Leadership has to have the foresight and the vision of the company. So there is the more serious side of it, but within the same regard, if you don't infuse humor within that seriousness and have at least stitching of humor that goes throughout, what ends up happening is pe- people start losing sight of what's important. A lot, and then a lot. Okay, let me take a step back. Right now, a lot of companies out there, the, the most important thing, as it should be, business is business, is the bottom line. However, when you stop using humor, it becomes sterile. It becomes almost like a stainless steel structure with no personality and no warmth. And yes, business is business, but without people, business doesn't can't exist. It does not exist.
Yeah.
And so when you are a leader, if you want to ensure that your business is human,
Well, if you're connecting with people, if you've got that rapport, I mean, that because that's part of it is that, there's some people like I get it. I have like, like a very a stern, resting face. I mean, look, it's a reality. It's like like I mean, my wife will say, it's like, why are you angry? I'm like, I'm not angry. I'm sitting here thinking about something. And so my brow is a little bit furrowed, but I just have that look. And I've been told by people, it's like, yeah, you just have a very like arrogant, standoffish look. I'm like, really? Like, oh, okay. Um, yeah, and like that's okay. When my daughter, I had one daughter, and when she told me that like her the guys, a couple of the guys that she dated and boy friends from high school, like they were afraid of me. I'm like, good. That's, that's where I want this to start. Yeah. Yeah, even she was dating one guy, was her boyfriend, was a football player and was bigger than me. Like he was afraid of me. I'm like, good, good. Tell him I have a gun. Also, you
right,
don't know where it
exactly,
is, but no, my
right.
dad has a gun. I didn't have one at the time, but
Right. No,
just
but
tell him that.
the thing is, there are indeed times where having a stern or a stoic look is actually good, and when it comes to the protection of your family, that is
But
definitely one of them.
in the leadership position, but if you are unapproachable, then people are going to be less talkative, less open. They're not going to come to you with ideas and things. And so, I like
Yep.
as collaboration people, collaboration technology people, we understand that you get more value. Adoption and engagement happens when you break down those communication barriers. And for me, humor has always been one of the chief tools, one of the ways. Like I'm not going out there thinking of it as a tool. I'm just being me. But it's a
Exactly.
way of breaking down those barriers to get people to talk more and to feel comfortable with having a conversation and approaching me, and then we're collaborating more.
It's actually extremely important in that regard. When it comes to breaking ice, humor is the best way to go about it. Um, when I was a consultant, that's one of the biggest things that I used. At the same time, I had to learn because when I was became a you don't learn to become a consultant. You become a consultant, and then over your experiences, you learn. Okay, this is good. This isn't good, and I had to over time gauge. Okay, too much humor, not enough humor. I had to find that middle ground where the ice was broken, and I knew I was able to gain the ear and the trust of the individual. And usually, when you're a consultant and you're going into a large corporation, I can think of one. It was a huge construction company out in Colorado. Once I was able to break the ice, and um, I was talking to the CEO, the CIO, and a couple of vice presidents. And I told them the importance of if this engagement is going to be successful, we want to target creating a governance document. And if this is going to be a high value, this is what we should do. They, the trust that I gained from the rapport I created with them when I first met them was enough where they ended up flying from both Canada and across the United States, over 40 different people from different parts of the organization as I asked for. And they had one of the best governance documents I ever seen coming out of the SharePoint planning engagement, um, out of all the other companies out there, because they took it seriously. It was when I was able to hit the right levels of both humor. It's like, okay, they felt comfortable with me. and then I was able to switch gears, and the words had more impact with their senior leadership.
Was there any moment there? I mean, there something, anything that you can remember and share about, like, what it was? Was it just like the way that you ran meetings, or was there anything that kind of stands out to you that helped build that rapport?
I, it's hard to remember because it's been so long ago.
Mhm.
One of the things I used to do is I would ask questions. I used mind. I know this is not a paid engagement, but whatever. MindJet's Mind Manager. And when I had that initial meeting, what I would do is go around the room and actually have them say who they were, what their title was, and what problems they're trying to fix. And I said, I don't care if it's collaboration. I don't care if the bathroom's too far from your office. I would fit something like that, and
Yeah,
and they'd all get a chuckle out of it. I think it was something like that, that it broke the ice, and they're like, "Okay," and they started to calm down, and then what would end up happening, the first person, it was always the case, the first person would say a few things, and I would put it out on the mind map, but the thing is, once it went around, everyone got comfortable with what was happening, and of course, it was filling in, so by the time every I think I would say out of 10 times, I would say 7 or 8 times the first person says, "I have more to add," because they were embarrassed that they didn't give as much as everyone else because they didn't know where to start and where to stop.
yeah.
And so that I think it was just those types of scenarios or situations, and it was always different. I never used the same usually. Okay, let me rephrase that. I didn't used to use the same humor because I would tailor it to a different person. I might say, talk to them before the meeting started, and we would talk about something like sports or, um, like when I was in Denver, Colorado. Like, so do you guys like take the lunch to dinner off so you can guys go skiing? Because one of the ski lodges was like within is visible from there.
Yeah.
It was like, and so just kind of try to break the ice, kind of joke and see where their interests or desires were. Or sometimes they would have different things their company did on the walls as either posters or images or pictures. And one of the things that this company did was build these crazy bridges through the Rocky Mountains from Alaska through Canada all the way down into let's see, Washington State. They were some scary looking pictures. They were building like these huge columns on the side of mountains. And I just commented on it. I said, those are no tinker toys. How'd you get them up there? And so it broke the ice again. It's something that really assists a lot of people, even the most stoic person, CEOs, or even heads of entire conglomerates. One of the things that you'll find is they will be a little bit more relaxed and be willing to share more if they know that you're more personable.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I realize too. It's interesting that you do need to. Well, you need to read the room. I mean, there are certain boundaries, cultural considerations, that
Yeah.
you need to keep in mind. Like, I've worked with 3 different companies now where I've gone and worked with and actually helped open offices for 2 of the different companies in Japan.
Wow.
And I found that a lot of my sense of humor did not land well.
No, it doesn't translate well.
It does not translate well. Yeah, yeah. And I had to explain, when you have to explain a joke or the humor around it, it becomes unfunny. It's like, never mind,
Yeah, it's
What's
true.
the point?
And the thing is, I have two half Italian, half Japanese nephews, so I get it. My brother's been living there longer than he lived in the United States at this point,
Huh?
so I bust on him all the time. It's like, "How's your English?"
Yeah,
He dies laughing. Um, my sister-in-law is an absolute sweetheart, and my two nephews are almost the same age as my children. So it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's just you don't get to see them except through video conferences like we're doing
Yeah.
here, because it's just so far away. It's not
Well,
something you can.
I mean, I love it. I actually almost with one of the companies almost moved my family over there. Was actually we were looking at schools
Yeah.
and then this thing called 9/11 happened, which is still not a funny time of the
No.
history of our country. So yes,
Yeah, no, agreed. And honestly, like you said, it's not a fight. There's certain times where being stoic is absolutely important.
yeah,
When I visited my brother in Japan, one of the places we visited was Hiroshima.
yeah,
And my brother and I, throughout the entire vacation, was shooting a kung fu theater movie, but we stopped instantly as soon as we were in Hiroshima. We were very. It was a very solemn place, and
yeah.
there's a time and a place for everything. We met some absolutely impressive people. My brother um, bumped into someone who is a survivor of Hiroshima, and he had a conversation with her, and I listened in the best I could. It was just one of the most amazing and moving things I ever seen. Because she embraced my brother. He was crazy. He had this wig of yarn of all different colors, color hair. He was a goofball, and but they just absolutely ate it up.
Well, I love the culture. I understand. I had hoped to. I started to learn the language. I thought we were going to move there and live there for a year or two, and but it was yeah. I mean, I certainly have found a couple people that were younger generation nationals, Japanese nationals that were had when you get them kind of away from the work environment were much more lighthearted, but it's a more serious culture. But even so, the broader culture, the organization still embraced a lot of the humor and
Yep.
there. I mean, something that I've tried to do that several times where I've come in as a consultant or even as a couple times as a full-time employee where I've tried to help try to evolve and change the culture
Hmm.
was through some gentle pranking on each other. I mean, I did a
Yep.
couple of companies that I did where on birthdays, and we would go and I would try to encourage and sometimes do myself where we would go and do something, sabotage their cubicle, their setup, and like there was one. I mean, at micro when I was at Microsoft, the team that I managed, like there's one of my PMs. Uh, she went out was out on vacation for a week and she came back and we had aluminum foiled her entire cubicle, every surface and every small item. I didn't realize how much aluminum foil that was too. It was a lot.
Oh,
It was a
I
lot.
can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I've heard other situations where people would like all their staplers, pens, pencils, push pins, and all that in Jello molds.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Another place that I worked, we actually used the pallet plastic wrapped the entire cube, and then filled it all the way to the top with packing peanuts.
Yeah.
So,
We did some things like that where yeah, where you can fill like I've seen we didn't use I can't try to remember if we had like the bouncy balls or ping pong balls. I can't remember what it was, but we had, in the cabinet doors, and you put a piece of cardboard, you fill it, you shut the doors, slide the cardboard
yep.
out so they're there. So they open it up and they all fall out. So we did a bunch of things, and I just remember I was reprimanded by somebody more senior about this, and I just thought, wow, like why is everybody just a dead fish around here?
Yep.
As I'm a very optimistic, I'm very much in my style, my project management style is it's not to not recognize mistakes or failures and make improvements, but I'm very much like, look, okay, this happened. Here, what do we need to do to move forward? I'm more focused on the moving forward piece
Yep.
than getting caught up in and flogging someone for a mistake that's made. I prefer to have a learning
Yep.
organization where we recognize it, but we move past it quickly so that we can learn. Anyway, and so I was feeling discouraged until like I went out on vacation for a week and I come back to my office and my office is empty, meaning my bookcase, my desk, all of my posters and wall hangings are all gone.
Okay. That's
So, where I am, and some people may know this that familiar with Microsoft. We were down in Redmond Town Center, but there was two buildings, and on the fourth floor, third floor, between the two buildings, over the street below, there was a bridge, with the ceiling and walls,
sure.
but a walkway in between the two buildings.
Okay.
They had moved all of my belongings on my desk and everything to this walkway. Well, there's no electricity, so they actually ran lines, power, and my phone. So when I found it, my phone was ringing on my desk. And
That's
so most of
phenomenal.
that day, I worked from the walkway. And so they've got a picture of me from the street looking up at me sitting in the walkway, you
That's
know.
phenomenal.
But that's where I knew that it's like, did I go too far with a bunch of the pranks and other things and just joking around, but just trying to get people to be comfortable because it's very stiff and it took months to get people to like loosen up and talk and feel comfortable. Like, look, you can come to me and talk to me about this, and but it was again, that was 2 years I managed that team and we crushed everything they handed to us to go and do.
Yeah.
And
Because
a
of
lot
the
of that
lose.
because of the culture that we were able to build on that team.
Exactly. That kind of reminds me of a couple different things. One of the biggest ones, one of the things that is a company killer is the statement, "We always did it that way."
Yeah, yeah.
The other one that popped into my head when you were telling that story, which is, I'm going to laugh about it afterwards, but is the fact that, let's see here, my brain just took a vacation without me. Hopefully, it comes back with pizza, but missed it by that much.
Right.
Uh, but the other statement, let me see if I can remember. Hold on. So there's that, and then, oh, if you're not having fun with the job or the career that you selected, then you've chosen the wrong line of work.
Yeah,
A lot of people out there, the reason why there is no joy, the reason why it took you so long to turn the ship around as far as injecting the humor, doing the little pranks and things like that to where the team became comfortable was probably because you were taking them from a place of a mindset of, I'm going to get a paycheck. There is no fun. There was no joy in it. And if you're in that mentality, it's a dangerous mentality to be in. And that's why a lot of times I say, if it's a job, then you may be in the wrong line of work. Because you can see people who like work extra hours or are having fun and constantly joking around. It's because it's not a job to them.
yeah,
It's something that they enjoy to do. And a lot of people make the mistake, and it's one thing that I've hopefully taught my kids is, don't go into something that you're not going to enjoy. Yeah, yes, do not like go to school for underwater basket weaving. There's not really a lot of call for that, but
no, but the upside, the future, the potential for that is huge, though. Yes,
absolutely. Uh, I know it's easier to weave them when they're still wet, but
that's right. I know, I know. Yeah,
but the
I
thing that, but that's just it. The fact of the matter is, humor does loosen things up in a work environment where people are actually going to enjoy coming there. A great example is the office hours that I've been doing. When I was first hired with my company, one of the biggest things was I was it. I was the evangelist. I was the SME. I was the administrator. I was the team for close to at that time 25,000 information workers.
Hmm.
But it was greenfield. They didn't know what SharePoint was. My first session, lunch and learn session, was how to upload documents into SharePoint. After that first session, I was told it was too complex. Explain why people want to use SharePoint. Using SharePoint was not it was too advanced for them. They had to understand why they wanted to even learn about how to use SharePoint. And that was the greenfield I was dealing with. They never had SharePoint or, for that matter, any sort of web-based application in their organization at the time. They were, you're going to laugh. Guess which application they started using first in M365?
So OneDrive?
I'll give you one
Well,
more guess.
well, I mean, everybody starts using email, so Outlook first, but
Yeah, nope.
really, what were they using? File Explorer?
Yammer.
Yo, hey, okay, so they're doing the social stuff,
But it was the public version of Yammer, and back at that time, there was no way to convert it to
right?
the
Yeah.
private tenant.
Yep. Yep.
And so I came in the tail end of the person prior to me who literally copy from one browser, paste into the other browser to bring literally everything back over into the private tenant. But it was interesting. And so what ended up happening, long story short, because I know we're probably pushing up against the time. One of the things that ended up doing is I would literally take on anyone who would talk to me. I would book a meeting, and that's how it was for about the first 6 months. However, as you know, when you watch cartoons, you get the snowball. It starts to roll down the hill on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon I was doing more meetings than I could do my day job. And so my director, Brad, and myself sat down. It's like, we got to come up with something. He's like, all right, stop answering people's emails. And he and I came up with the concept of office hours
Mhm.
once a week. And that has been going every week for the last 7 years.
Well,
And for the longest time, we would have 20 to 30 different people because I based my office hours like I was running a SharePoint user group, like the M365 user group. That's what I knew. And so it's like first come, first serve. Whoever raises their hand first, you get to ask a question first. Don't feel bad if you don't have a question. Learn from other people. And to this day, still say that. Are you a fly on the wall, or are you actually here to ask a question?
yeah.
And a lot of times I'm a fly on the wall, and that is how it's going. And of course, just like you, I have a sense of humor. There's times I end up breaking out into song. I just start singing for no apparent reason because I'm doing something. And then there's other times I'll do movie quotes or TV commercial quotes or whatever the case may be. And so what ended up happening is people start very, very quickly started to loosen up, and so they would come just almost use me like a radio station and multitask, because if no one had a question, of course I'd call people out, and they're like, you could hear them fumbling for the
Yeah.
microphone and hitting the mute
Well,
button.
David, what are your go-to movies that you quote or things that you quote?
Again, it depends on the situation. A lot of Star Wars, a lot of Spaceballs.
I've got a couple Spaceballs that are in mine as well. In
uh,
fact, I've got a couple presentations where I talk about going plaid,
yep.
and so I've got that built in. Yeah, but I like it's funny, like there's the obvious ones like I was telling a couple people just at this last show about I was quoted said something about Spinal Tap. In fact, in one of my sessions, I talked about Spinal Tap.
Crank it up to 11.
Yeah, I told the kind of story about it. My favorite quote from Spinal Tap is actually it's a bit more obscure. It's we'd love to stay and talk to you, but we need to hurry up and go sit in the lobby and wait for the limo. Like, like
I
yeah,
remember that. That is
this
amazing.
Well, they were it says, they were so bad. It says they were still booing that last band by the time we got on the stage. Like, yeah. No, but, then there's Galaxy Quest is another popular one.
Yep.
Mystery Men is a family favorite, and then of course, then you've got the quotes. I was a very proud day. I came home from work one day, and I hear the boys up in the TV room, up in the playroom, watching Monty Python, and
Nice.
yeah, and Holy Grail. And it's
Yep.
like they found the DVD and they were watching that and laughing out loud. I'm like, what are they what? Then I could hear the quotes,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
and then
They'll
they
grow
started
back.
saying stuff. It's only a flesh wound, you know. No, but that and then of the The Office and Arrested Development were both huge in our family.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Some things from Seinfeld at times, and I haven't watched a
Seinfeld,
lot of, what was it, Home Improvement,
yep.
Needs More Power.
Did you ever watch? Are you familiar with the Steve Odekirk Thumb movies?
Hmm. I'm
I'm telling you, David, go their full movies are all out on YouTube. Go find them and watch them.
I will
Um,
definitely have to do that.
Highly recommend. Like the one I was just watching on the flights over to Europe. I had a couple of them, but there's Bat Thumb.
Yep.
Check it out. You'll like it. But it's funny. I mean, how that some of those things and the phrasing from those, like we do it as a family, but then incorporate into my work life,
Yep.
and so we build that camaraderie around some of those funny fun things,
Yep.
and you'll find that a lot there's people that I worked with that we could then have these we start to develop our own inside jokes,
Yep.
that just become again part of that culture. And even the people that there are some people that are naturally unfunny people, but that still appreciate being around that
Yep.
kind of lightheartedness.
Yep.
Again, it almost eases people into that. It builds that I
It,
don't know how else to say it, the rapport.
it almost reminds me of those people are kind of like Walter. I don't know if you know the ventriloquist Jeff Dunham.
Of course, yes.
Okay, Walter.
Yeah.
So every job location has at least one Walter, and but yet, despite how they come across, they still gravitate to you. And see, and here's the value of humor in the office hours. Because of that, we had a bunch of power users over time grow, and so when Microsoft Teams came around, we end up from our office hours picking choosing because they were coming from all across the entire company from different parts of the organization, and we ended up creating a Microsoft Teams champion network. And because of the office hours, and they kept coming to mine, they started holding their own office hours. So when COVID hit, we released Microsoft Teams the first week of the pandemic. Guess what happened? Because it was we had so many different office hours going out, 2 tickets only for almost 19,000 information workers
Wow.
in 1 week.
Wow. Well, that you can also get that kind of result if you turn off all the automation so that they're just not getting to you. Then you can still only have 2 or fewer.
Well, very true.
Yeah.
However, then you have to, have the sandbags because the pitchforks and torches come into
Yeah.
play.
Well,
But
that's why companies would run so much smoother if they didn't have those pesky customers, you know? Ah, the things that
oh,
we deal with in corporate life. Yeah. Yeah. Well, David, I know we're out of time, but really appreciate your time. This is really a passion topic.
it is.
What can we do? How can we improve on this? It's something just to think about. Like how sterile is your environment? Like, do you need to inject some humor into your environment?
And it's something always to kind of keep in mind, and especially for the people that you're working with that are stuck in the mode of we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the only way to break through that defense mechanism is you'll end up finding humor, because they'll end up loosening up at least a little bit.
Oh, I thought you were going in a different direction. I thought you were going to say, murder of that person. But your answer was better.
Well, unless you have a bunch of crows sitting on the windowsill, then you're fine.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, what's a murder in the workplace amongst friends? Come on, lighten up.
It,
Right.
it become a murder mystery.
There we go. Every time it happens, it's a mystery to me.
Oh no!
All right. Well, David, hey, thanks a lot for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great one.
You've been listening to the CollabTalk podcast. New episodes are published weekly, and you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and most other podcast platforms. Thanks for listening.